Are we live? We are live. What is happening, everybody? Hope everybody's having a fantastic Tuesday is what day it is. So we are getting our first weather, the weather forecast, and we just happen to be getting a cold front. Now, it's September. A cold front in southeast Texas basically means it's going to go from being 97 degrees to 91. You know what? We'll take it. Here's the thing. It's that time of year, though, mid-September. Everybody's weather's just starting to taper, and boost weather is upon us. Go fast weather is upon us. Everybody's had their winter projects hammering out in their garage. TU, what is going on? Got the horns up. Woo! Everybody's got their projects have been well underway, ready to unveil. Everything is going to be on kill mode. Just multiple Mopars made it in. What's up, brother? Michael Corleone got the good evening, Professor Mason. What's up, brother? Got the arm flex. I like it. So we've got boost weather approaching us. Go fast weather approaching us. I would love to know from you guys, what are y'all up to? What are y'all putting together? What kind of mad scientist racket have y'all been running in y'all's garages? So, I bring you guys up to speed just as far as stuff that I've been doing, trying to get ready for the boost weather. Shawnee's in the house checking in. Of course, he's up in Minnesota where, got the great North cheat code. So stuff that I've been doing, basically looking into what I can do to try to make a little bit of more go fast out of my stuff. So, talking about the Hellcat, first and foremost. Little Miss Revlon, I've been playing with the tune just a little bit. But keeping with the theme of 93 octane, again, I can't get away with a whole lot. I've data logged this thing over and over and over again. I'm going to start playing with some things that I normally wouldn't play with. Primarily knock sensor sensitivity. Multiple Mopars and I have chatted about that before. And I'm going to go ahead and start getting a little bit more aggressive with that. Not really going to add any timing. I'm just going to add a little bit of a buffer so that I'm not dragging unnecessary timing out of the car. Right now, the knock sensors, I've got to admit, I'm a little bit of a biatch when it comes to my knock sensors, but I'm going to chill them out just a little bit. Maybe just give them a, just a little corner of a medicinal chocolate chip just to chill them out so that they don't go into freak out mode. Now I'm going to try to get this thing as deep into the 10s, maybe even tickle in 9. Try to get that thing as close to that as I can on 93. So I'm going to need as many tips, tricks, all the matrix kung fu I can do to try to get that thing where it needs to be. And oh yeah, this morning sucked in the gym. I ran basically 3 5-minute rounds with a 45-second rest, and I looked like I'd been pulling a dog sled solo for about 2 hours. I looked and felt like ass. So I'm going to have to get my fat ass into the gym a little bit more often, but apparently, yeah, my cardio is lacking, and I got to drop about 20 pounds. So anyway, wish me luck on that. But aside from that, again, playing with that tune a little bit. Also, with Foxy, haven't really been doing a lot with her, only just doing data log after data log after data log with it. Decided just to go back to a little bit of a hacky looking tune on this thing, mainly because the results just look good and I didn't feel like really diving too deep into the thing. It's pretty C-spot run as far as putting a tune together for one of these things. So I'm basically just gonna leave it at roughly 12.0, 12.2 really is really the AFR that it seems to like. And realistically, that's I can't really get the car to feel like it's running any better at a leaner AFR. On the dyno, it seemed to like around 12.5, 12.2 anyway, so I'm going to keep it a little bit fat and happy and let it ride there. The car actually, the more timing I throw at the car, the happier it seems to get. Weird, right? But in this case, I'm just going to cap it at about 33 on the big end. Basically, I'm starting at about 3,500 RPM. I've got about 28 degrees of timing, 33 on the big end. The car seems to like it. That's where it picked up the most power. It didn't care, honestly, on the dyno air fuel. I could have, I could be at 11.9. I could be at, 12.6. Oddly enough, the car did like a little bit more fuel. So, the weird thing about it is that I'm just going to leave it where it's sitting, to be honest with you. The car does great. No hunting at idle. Everything's cleaned up. The car is just so much fun to drive the way that it sits. I'm not going to ruin it by trying to get too obsessive about this tune. So, done. What's funny is that, so I hooked up my LM2, and so Dr. Diff, you and multiple Mopars will love this. So I've got my LM2 that has been basically a part of my life since I can't remember it not being in the box, right? I can't remember not having this thing. So drilled a hole, got one of the bolt-on O2 bungs. Did it with the car just sitting on the ground, actually. It was kind of funny. So get it all hooked up, get everything, kind of rolling, start the data logging, and I'm just going through the data log. I'm holding the LM2, and it's just, I'm doing a dyno run on the street, which is, not the safest thing, but I'm just looking. Everything's fine. Stop, make some changes to the tune, make another hit. Look at AFR. I already know where timing's going to be. Looking at AFR. Everything's cool. Make a couple more changes, and that was it. It was literally like I was on the dyno, so I was having fun with that. But let me check in with you guys real quick, and then we can get back to some more fun here. Sean, you saying Minnesota, we're hitting right into the good drag racing weather. Yeah, you are. Oh, Multiple Mopar saying the black car is together and making test hits. That's what I needed to hear, brother. Check out Multiple Mopar. Check out his YouTube channel. You'll see some of his monsters, and that black car is certainly one of them. Thing is nasty. Glad to see she's back up and doing dirty deeds. I love it. Let's see. Oh, Richard Martin's checking in saying, what's up, B? Finally got my street tune done. Nice. Looking forward to getting the catless mid-pipes and taking off the catted ones. Very good. Johnny's saying, I'm trying to sneak at 999 with a lower pulley Hellcat. I need under 600 DA, and that is a no-brainer for the next 4 weeks, hopefully. I bet it'll get there. You'll have a lot of fun doing that. Kobe Warren's checking in. Got the 2 arms. I like it. Flexing it up. I dig it. Johnny's saying, are you a race gas tune and 150 pounds away from running 9s with Revlon? So, I am an E85 tune away from running 980s with Revlon the way that it sits right now. But to do an E85 tune, that would mean E85 pumps, E85 injectors. You kind of see where that's going. So, you can kind of throw the kitchen sink at these things with stock boost with E85. A little bit of weight reduction, and she could probably crack an 89 and 88, somewhere in that range. But as far as a race gas tune, yeah. The thing is, though, the funny thing about the Hellcats that I found anyway is that obviously everything's going to be timing based, but 260 GT Plus, obviously you need an injector for that, in my opinion. Mainly because from what I've seen on data logs in the DA that I would need to make those hits and to run those numbers, yeah, it may take a standalone tune to get where I would probably need to be with timing and with injector duty cycle. So you got to remember, I mean, it's already basically maxing out all of the stock tables the way that it sits now. So, and that's in super low DA, but again, we're going to try to use the Mother Nature cheat code to get this girl where she needs to be. So, barring, any change in mind with me going with a race gas, she's going to stay on straight Exxon. And I want to do that with no boostane, no Torco, no anything else like that. So, Shawnee saying he's also managed to drop 25 pounds. Yeah, everybody give a big congratulations to Shawnee. He's hit a milestone on that 25-pound weight loss. So, man, that's basically 2/10 right there, brother. Getting faster at the salad bar. Ashton's asking, going to Mopar Fest at HRP? Probably not. Unless I am driving for somebody, I probably will not be there, although I will probably I don't know, I might be there. I might be helping Ray out with a 1320, but we'll see. Kobe's asking, are you on 305 or 315? So my street setup is a 305, but unfortunately, it is a 305, basically it's a 305 35 20 is my street setup. I think that's what you're asking about. If not, if you're asking about the drag setup, it's a 305 45 17. But you guys know I've been lamenting my decision on buying the Nitto Tri-5 2R, mainly because it comes from the factory. Basically, it's a 305, but it's a 315 width, which you can't really see it. The car used to sit right here, now it's in back. The problem with that is that the tire, because of that, on a 10.5-inch rim, kind of bulges a little bit. Now, if you've got an 11-inch rim, it looks great. Just doesn't fly on a 10.5-inch rim, and I just kind of wish I'd have gone with the old school Tri-5s as opposed to the Tri-5 2R. The Tri-5 2R is a great tire, though, but from an aesthetic point of view, it's just, man, it's just not attractive. So anyway, but it does great in the wet. As far as just being a tire that is just a good tire for this power level, it's okay, but it does everything really well. So I don't know. Y'all have seen my videos on that. But anyway, hopefully, Kobe, that answers your question, brother. Uncle Super saying, yo, B, got the fist bump. I like it. Saying, a friend of mine wants me to ask you if you have a cage in Revlon. No, I do not. Revlon is still as she was delivered from the factory. No cage. Dr. is saying, my man, seems like we're just talking. What's the topic tonight? Just join. We're talking about it is boost weather. What are you doing to get your car ready for this fall? It's horsepower weather for you NA guys, so that's kind of what we're chatting about coming into this. Dr. is saying, y'all hit that like button. Yeah, hit the like button. Dr. said, I have an LM2. Love it. Works great. Yep, mine's sitting in the black car just chilling right now. 392 is asking, any manifold recommendations or just port the stock? Man, I'll tell you what, I would say just port the stock. And the reason why I say that is because the Holley intake runners are too short. And unless you're doing a dedicated build around a specific RPM range, what can I tell you, man? I mean, it's... yeah, you're going to lose too much down low. The Edelbrock intake, it's a decent enough intake, but two problems. One, it's heavy, especially when you consider the weight of the stock manifold. Two, yeah, you can kind of make some power with it, but they come just jacked up looking from the factory. I would say send it off to Extrude Home. At least have them make a light pass on it to clean it up, but it retains a lot of heat, just a fitment. But the thing is that in testing, it does pretty well. In fact, we had one 426 that had the Eddy intake on it, one of my camshafts, long tubes. The whole shooting match in that car on a Mustang dyno made about, I think it made 547 to the rear wheels on a Mustang dyno. Good running little 426. Would it have made the same power with a stock intake? I don't know, we didn't try. And that was kind of my biggest beef with that whole build, is that I wanted to run the car with a stock intake and we never did, which pissed me off. In fact, I was even willing to donate one of my intakes to the cause just to loan it to see how it would run. I like the power curve of the stock intake manifold. I like the big hit of torque down low. You kind of need it to get one of these big cars rolling. So in that respect, it depends on the build. If you're doing a dedicated build, high RPM, go with the Holley. If you're doing a stroker, sure, go with the Eddy. Anything 392-ish, up to maybe 415 cubic inches, stick with the stock intake manifold. The downside to the stock intake manifold, and there is no getting around this, is the throat area. I don't know why I'm doing that. Anyway, the throat area where the throttle body bolts and it makes that turn to the right. It actually makes kind of a jog and turns over to the right. The problem is that that's your flow restriction. The runner size is a little bit of an issue. The runner length is really more the issue in terms of tuning the RPM range that the engine's going to be happy in. But just in terms of total flow capacity, it doesn't matter what size throttle body you open that hole up to. It will only honestly support about 84 millimeters of total just flow shape. In other words, I'm just trying to not, bore you to tears with the way that it's shaped and the flow, and when I go in with my click gauge and I'm measuring everything in there, it's just a headache. So to try to get that thing to flow any more, to accommodate any more airflow from a larger throttle body, would take one of two things. In fact, Rob, you know him as Quick Brick, Racer X's buddy, the white car, Charger with the blue stripes. It's got one of my cams, and my intake, my personal intake manifold is on that car. And that's the one that I opened up literally to the most that I could open up that throat to. And I even had to backfill part of it with epoxy. So the data on that intake looks really good. In fact, at wide open throttle, at peak RPM, the difference in inches of mercury, I want to say with the cam, because the cam is going to make the runners the intake runners a little bit less active because of overlap, but I want to say it's like half an inch of mercury, give or take. And I think the most inches of mercury that it does show on a data log for you, this is for you carburetor guys, by the way, the most inches of mercury you would see, I want to say, was like an inch of mercury. So that'll give you guys an idea if you're used to carburetor speak. If you guys are used to fuel injection speak, KPA, that goes like a flat 100 KPA, you're looking at like 97 KPA throughout the pull on that, on the data logs. Mopar saying LM2 FT dubs. Yeah, mine's it's kind of a hack job the way it's in there right now. I've actually got the where the bung is, I've got from the O2, I've got a wire coming out of that's zip tied to the fuel line, and then it's coming in underneath the door. And I've got my controller sitting there, and of course you just plug it into your cigarette lighter. Smoking at 5 saying, I'm hitting the track this Saturday in Spokane. Nice. Hope the smoke clears. Air quality has been 450 to 500 ppm. Hazardous to breathe. Yeah, I wouldn't be out and about in that, bro. Stay healthy, man. Please stay healthy. Sam saying, all fun and games till you're doing rolling burnouts. That is the fun and games. Oh, so to give you guys an idea of how Foxy runs, that's one of the fun things about this car is, you roll into it in first, grab second, and it'll just boil the tires. But the fun thing is to roll into it kind of quick in second gear and just do that rolling hazing thing that, I don't know, it's just a lot of fun. Mopar is saying, keeping it straight 93, buddy, that's a true street car. Absolutely, man. Look, that's kind of where I'm at with this thing, man. Everybody else is doing the E85, the race gas, the 93, but it's got Torco in it, so it's really not 93. A lot of guys are doing that, and I feel like it's a bit of a disservice, and I think it's a bit dishonest, if I'm being very honest. And I don't want to be that guy. I don't want to go, oh, look, you're 93 octane. But, I went in there and snuck in a couple of degrees of timing for whatever reason. Because that car, by the way, hates timing. We'll get into that in a minute, but if you want. But, yeah, no, this one's going to be straight. In fact, the gas station is just up the street where I'm getting my gas, if not Buc-ee's. So if I keep with tradition, I'll just run up to Buc-ee's and grab a couple of jugs of fuel. So Frank's asking, what's your opinion on compound boosting the Hellcat turbo feeding charger like the Hellion setup? So here's the thing, compound boost setups work great with diesels. They work great with stationary units, the stationary power plant units, on a lot of large diesel generators and huge water pumps. They'll use that because it's a steady state manifold pressure that they're looking to achieve, and it works pretty well in that. But on a dynamic setup where you're going from idle to maximum RPM, throttle transitions, things like that, the problem with that setup is that you almost get the worst of all the worlds when it comes to the boost. You are not working within an efficient range with the turbos in terms of just the flow in and out of the engine. You're not doing the roots or the positive displacement supercharger any favors by force feeding it, mainly because now you're taking heated air and putting it into the least efficient forced induction mode that you can get, which is the positive displacement. So now it's so much more of a heat pump at that point. No matter how much after cooling you try to come up with, that's just kind of the thing that you run into. Primarily it has to do with heat, really, is where I'm going with this. It's a little bit too busy also. You'd be better off just sticking with one or the other and utilizing the benefits of whatever that system is, whether it's the low-end grunt in the mid-range of a positive displacement, or the mid-range hit and then the ability to carry boost with the turbo. See, the problem is when the root supercharger, I'm going to say roots just because, but when the PD supercharger becomes inefficient, the problem at that point, you got two problems. Well, actually three. You've got heat, which is the primary issue, but you've got an inertial drag because you've got two rotors that just, the higher the RPM, the harder it is to accelerate that mass. And then you also have the fact that from a flow standpoint, they're just simply running out of efficiency. So to feed that case with more boost or with more air to try to cram that air in there, it's just exacerbating a heat issue. Plus you're just not, I think you know where I'm going with this. It's been proven that yes, you can make more power, but it's really not the best way to go about it. And truth be told, if you stuck with one or the other, the car, the platform, whatever it is, would probably be faster. So anyway, hopefully that answers your question. The thing is, and I know a little bit about this because I knew a guy that had done this to it was a 99 Mustang Cobra that had a Kenny Bell and twin turbos. And interestingly enough, when he pulled the Kenny Bell off of it, put an NA manifold back on the car and kept the twin turbos, it picked up like 110 horsepower. So anyway, and we did a lot of testing and a lot of goofy stuff with that. And we were going to actually, initially, we're going to do that with my Lightning. My Lightning was going to be kind of the test truck for that shop. And instead, he started working on the Cobra. And that's kind of how that all came about. So anyway, that's my experience with those things. Mopar saying, I love the compound boost idea. It may be an issue, still best of both worlds. Yeah, we were finding that the weird thing is that the discharge temperatures would spike once the turbos became efficient, especially at peak torque. Discharge temperatures would spike, and I mean, it was just and again, modern systems may be able to do something. And by the way, if we're talking about, and let me rewind that real quick. Are we talking about compound turbos and supercharger, or are we talking about compound twin turbo compound systems? In that respect, they've got some merit, and in fact, you can force that system to spool up real quick. And of course, Porsches have been using that system for a long time, and it works really well. Oh, Frank saying, I feel like it would have less strain on the crank and easier to add boost without a pulley swap. Yeah, I think, yeah, we've gone through that. Mopar saying, no cage in black car either. Don't need it. Don't need it. Smoking at 5 saying, got a Pikes performance tune. I'm loving the trans tune so far. I bet. Yeah, that's awesome, man. Ashley coming in, already talking that shit. Saying everybody needs to watch out for the Orange Challenger when boost weather comes. We've been working on some tunes and it's been making great times in this heat. I like it. Uncle Seeker's asking, the numbers you are hitting with Revlon are quite impressive, dude. Thank you very much, man. I appreciate that. And yeah, everybody watch out for Ashley, because she will be talking shit and backing it up a little bit from what I understand. I like it. Let's see, 392, checking and saying thank you. Um, Dr. Div saying your LM2 sounds like mine is usually coming through the door with the cigarette lighter plugged in. Yep. And what's funny is the cigarette lighter on this thing's a little jinky, so I got to make sure I get it in just that little, I don't know, I got to plug it in and just hit that little cigarette lighter G-spot or else it'll just croak. Shawnee's asking, maybe I missed it, but do both cars prefer 93 octane in your garage? I'm assuming they do. Yes, absolutely. Hey, Sean, thank you very much. Appreciate the contribution. It says, good night, safety meeting in the morning. Adios, brother. Adios, brother. Yeah, I know the feeling with that. We just had one of those too. Eric checking in saying, good evening, B. Good evening, Eric. Frank's asking, who makes a good turbo kit and intake for the Hellcat? Do you know? Not off the top of my head. I think Helion was working on one, but there's a couple that are out there. A couple that I've seen were custom fabbed. But again, I would check with Helion on that one. Actually saying, you already know, saying rock on, I like it. Steven's asking, what about rear mounted turbo on Hemis? Probably one of the better ways to go. Again, rear mount turbos are always a little bit jinky just with oiling and things like that. But, I mean, you can make them work. People have been doing rear mounts for forever. And it would, to be honest with you, it would probably be the easiest way to package that system in the Hemis, primarily because if you've never looked underneath one of the Hemis, it's pretty funny. It is a true unibody from nose to tail, as opposed to something more like the Fox body, where it is a unibody, but you've got a little bit more space, and like the K member takes up, I don't know, it's kind of hard to explain, but there's not in the LX platform, you've got like this kind of a cradle thing in there that eats up a ton of real useful real estate for a turbo. It's a big car, but the engine compartment's actually smaller than you might think. So, oh man. Let's see. Dr. Div saying, give it the old wiggle job for the G spot. I like it. That's what you got to do. You got to sit there and play with it. Mopar saying, imagine using a compound turbo utilizing a properly sized VGT or VVT and a large fixed turbo. That would be what's up. So to be able, what would be cool with that would be the ability to basically dial in your spool up rate with that, especially with the VVT, because you could set the intake center line at like 103. Just have one of the most pissed off cars, pissed off platforms from like right at idle to about 3,500 RPM. That thing would just, that'd be sick. So, yeah, and with a compound setup, oh yeah. And just back it off based on boost. That would be nasty. Well, Mopar is saying from a diesel guy's point of view, yep, absolutely. Dr. is saying, done a couple of rear mount turbos on the Rams, have a good return pump, and keep a spare. Use a small AR ratio and exhaust size down to promote exhaust velocity. Absolutely. Yeah, because one of the biggest issues is just the bigger complaint with the rear mount is just you've got all that room that you have to pressurize before you pressurize the turbo, and then the turbo has all that volume that it has to pressurize as it's trying to pressurize the engine. So they can be a bit laggy, although they will make the power. It just takes them a second to spool up and build that pressure. So getting more into it though, I know a lot of folks have been working on their cars and getting the trucks and the cars ready and everything else. And it's funny because a lot of folks that I've talked to, we've been talking about, what are the plans? What's everybody going to do this year? And everybody's talking about, the cool thing, I guess I should say, is that everybody's talking about going faster. Nobody is looking at it going, well, I'm just thinking about staying the same or anything like that. Everybody's been putting in work this year. So I'm real excited. I'm real excited to see the progress that everybody's made coming into this. And, I know that, I haven't had a whole lot of a chance to get any seat time. In fact, I've got to order some tires for Revlon, but one of the things that I'm looking forward to is getting back into the car and making some passes and seeing how deep into those, like for my car, I'm going to see how deep into the 1020s I can get in, say, I don't know, 1,000-foot DA. You know, can I get a 20 in 1,000 foot? Can I get a 1020, anything in like 1,500-foot DA? And as that number starts to come down, that's when I'm really going to start getting excited. So, Ashton's asking, got any Mopar Chat live shirts for sale? I actually need to get some more made, which reminds me, I need to do that at some point tomorrow. I'll get some mediums and larges and some girl shirts ordered up, hopefully tomorrow. But you're right, I need to get some. And once they come in, yes, I will let you know, for sure. Dr. Div saying, they light off quick and make decent mid-range, but take your pick. You want low end or high end? I found a 76, 75 with an 0.81 AR seems to be the daily driver sweet spot in my experience anyway. I can see that. That would spool up quick. Or will help it spool up quick. Sam saying, man, a big single would work well. It would make my day in my truck. I bet. Let's see, Hilton Mode saying, hey B, any opinion on the Cook's long tube headers with green cats? Their site says no tune required. Well, technically no tune required. I mean, the car will run, although it won't be optimized. The green cats, I don't like the green cats. The reason why I don't like the green cats is because they're kind of small. And what you have to remember about a catalytic converter is the biscuit is what it's called, and that is the part of the converter that has all the little holes in it. Those are called, well, it's called a biscuit, and it is a 400 cell per inch biscuit, which is the standard for a high flow catalytic converter. So for every square inch on that biscuit, you've got 400 holes, basically, for exhaust gas to pass through. The bigger the biscuit in diameter, the more it flows, because it's a fixed amount of cells per square inch. If you have more square inches, then it flows more. The problem with the small catalytic converters is that when you reduce the size of that catalytic converter, you reduce the total flow capacity of the torque converter. I mean, of the torque converter. Yeah, torque converter flows great. Of the catalytic converter. So in saying that, if you want a small diameter catalytic converter, it's going to have to be a metal substrate, which is going to give you a 200 cell count, and that'll get you your flow back. So for what you're going to be up against, I think that if it'll work in your jurisdiction, I would go with the metal substrate high flow cat with the Cook's long tube headers. Now, my opinion of the Cook's long tube headers is very high. Cook's, in my opinion, makes the best fitting header that I've ever worked with. And I mean, that goes not only just for the Mopar stuff, that's pretty much for anything that you're working on. You truly do get what you pay for with a Cook's header. They don't sponsor me, they don't, pay me to say that. I'm just saying, going off of what I've seen, they're a really good product. But again, on that green header, on that green cat to go along with those headers, probably not going to be your best bet. In fact, I'll take that even a step further. Because they're small and they offer a bit more of a restriction than your stock catalytic converters do, it's going to kill some of the scavenging effect that the long tubes were trying to get you in the first place. So you may still get some gain down low, but it may actually end up killing more power up top than you were expecting. And that's going to be true for any engine, I would say, over about 350 horsepower with those cats, maybe 400 with those cats. Let's see. But yeah, you will need, you're better off to get a tune with that setup though. It has to do with transfer function. The computer knows how long it takes for an exhaust pulse to get from the the cylinder head to the O2 sensor. That's really, it knows that timing. Long tubes are going to throw that timing off, so that's one of the things you need to change in the tune to optimize it. Uncle Seaford saying, weather is approaching. Yet, being in upstate New York, my car goes up on stands in the garage in about 1 more month. Just not drivable in upstate winter. Plus, that's where my Jeep is for. Absolutely, I like it. Dr. Ziv saying, bet B Mason goes 10-0 this year. I'm hoping so. I'm hoping so. Steven saying, thanks B and Dr. Div. Thank you, man. Molten Mopar saying, you can technically reprogram the ECU to control the VGT, VVT actuator as well. Plenty of blank space for it. Could even have it tell the vanes based on vane position, boost and turbo speed. That's giving you some fancy footwork right there. And Molten Mopar, Jordan saying, wouldn't be hard to add that IoT in as well. Absolutely. Sam saying, cats? What cats? Dr. Div saying, no kidding, right? Dr. Div saying, love all the no tune required upgrades. They will gain power with a tune like NSR camshaft. Yeah, true that. Dr. Div saying, Dana 60. Oh, I must have missed something. Sam saying, only no tune apply to pre-emission diesels. Yeah, that's true. Taylor Shanahan saying, hello, have an issue with my 392 Challenger stick scat pack. Dodge changed the cam, but it's still happening. Shifting to second, car has low power or little power. Would the skip shift eliminator cause this? No, it wouldn't. And I'm not sure why changing the camshaft would have been on their list of things to look at, but shifting to second, the car has low power or little power. I would almost have to get a little bit more information. But if you're running into something like that, I don't know, man. I've never had one do that. Shifting the second, car has low power or little power. For how long? Is it like for a second? I mean, do you get it into, say, is this under wide open throttle where you're hammering gears? Is it regular, just driving the thing around? Lots of stuff to unpack on that one, buddy. Molten Mopar is saying, I've glowed the Cook's red like cherry red. Those suckers are tough. Yes, sir, they are. Hilton Mode saying, thanks for the knowledge. I go high flow instead. Talking about those cats. Absolutely, man. Hopefully that helps you out. Cody is checking in and saying, go fast weather is approaching for sure. Yes. Yes, it is. Codename Scout checking in and saying, what up, brother? What up, Code? Tyler Davis checking in and saying, car is stock. Could it be a computer issue? Please help. Very frustrated. It could be, man. It could be a number of things. Typically when a car loses power like that, you would almost have to have it hooked up to a computer, doing a data log and finding out what is happening. What's the anomaly that's going on there? Are you throwing is it throwing a throttle body code? Is it going into some partial limp mode? You'd want to look at the throttle source and see, is it running on, is the throttle source throttle, or does it, show a thermal code in there? It can cause kind of a bit of a, it can potentially cause a bit of a hiccup there. If there's something going on that the car is seeing, could potentially be a bad knock sensor. You've got other things going on when you're shifting the gears. Knock sensor could be freaking out. Not long enough to really show anything in long term, but it would only show up on a test drive. And again, you'd have to have it hooked up. There's some stuff that that can come up that can be weird unless you've got a data log and somebody sitting in the passenger seat and reading that data log. Or at least being able to go over that data log. If you get like a weird limp mode or a thermal code or something like that, you've got to be able to have that data to go back and take a look at. Codename Scat's asking if it's a hard shift. Possibly. Oh, hey. Ashley's saying, if you hear of anybody looking for a supercharger, I'll have the Kenny Bell for sale in the next few months. I tell you what, I love Kenny Bell superchargers because they sound amazing. Love those things. So you guys, the word's out. Ashley's selling that Kenny Bell. So if y'all are looking for it, looking for Kenny Bell, hit up Ashley. Or let me know and I'll tell her. Or just jump on here and she can give you the details. We've got all kinds of ways to hook you up. Tyler's asking, thanks so much for your help. It's weird. Car runs perfect. First to second, throws you back in the seat. Then you shift first to second again, and a block later, hardly any punch at all, no code. Doesn't necessarily have to throw a code for you to have a problem or a quick limp mode. Again, man, that is weird, but something tells me that there is something going on incremental. Do this too. Check underneath the hood. Make sure nothing is loose. Make sure that you don't have a wire that's chafed. That might only be, on that 1-2 shift where you have the change in G load, that you don't have a wire that's chafed or something like that that could be potentially causing an issue. That it's instant, happens quickly, and then the problem goes away. I've had that problem happen. I'll tell you one other thing. Kind of a funny one. It's with the Fox body. It will, on decel, throw a check engine light that lasts for exactly 1 second. Looked at DFCO, which is deceleration fuel cutoff. I've played with different tables. Thought it might have been an EGR code. Can't find it, but it literally lasts for a second and goes away. All the data looks great. It's obviously on decel. It's not a big deal. And it only happens one time during the drive. It will not happen again, no matter how I drive the car. So, no harm, no foul in that case, but I get it. And again, even having the data, I can't really see what's going on. But I will say this, it will require having somebody with you. And again, check to see if nothing else, just pull stored codes and see what's in there for permanent codes as well. Those don't necessarily come up as a check engine light, but it'll just give you an idea as maybe what's going on in terms of stuff that doesn't give you a code but can still be stored. And yeah, Doc Div saying kind of the same thing that I was saying. Sam saying, I once glowed a riding mower red, and now that mower only runs on one cylinder. Wide open all the time. Tyler's saying, Dodge thought it was the cam. It was worn, did not solve the problem. That's weird. Need to run a data log? Absolutely. See if it's pulling timing. Could be a motor mount. And that's the thing. Codename Scott's got a good point. Some of the earlier 2008 through 2012, if I remember correctly, had some issues with motor mounts that would make noise. Again, that'll piss off a knock sensor real quick. Again, it's got to be data logged and you got to take a look at it. And that is absolutely intermittent, by the way. Sometimes it'll piss it off, other times it won't. It'll depend on how you completed the shift. All kinds of stuff like that. So good point on that. That's why we are a community. We come together. It takes a village to solve some of these problems. Some Ferrari guys checking in and saying, think about putting a Paxton Novi 2200 on my 1550 MT82 car. Transmission's going to disagree with that decision. But outside of oil pump gears, what else would I need as supporting mods to gain the best benefits from the Paxton? Looking for 675 volt horsepower. I wouldn't beat on that thing on a real sticky tire. Just use your tires as a fusible link with that one with the MT82. Let's see, other than oil pump gears, which is all you'll need. What else would I need as supporting mods to gain the best benefits from the Paxton? Really not much. The kit's pretty complete. Obviously a good set of injectors. I would say Fuel 1 out of Houston would be a good place to start. Fuel injector connection, obviously another good place to start. No matter what you do though with that car, a couple of things to remember. When you get your aftermarket injectors, if you don't get them from Fuel 1, here in Houston, just call Fuel 1, ask to talk to Keith, he's the owner, he'll get you squared away. You want to make sure those injectors are flow balanced. We, as a rule over at Pikes, would send the injectors over to Keith, and I know Dr. Diff does this, he's got his own equipment there, to fuel check, or to check the fuel injectors to make sure that they're all even. one of the weird things, even with new injectors, you can get some that are a little bit better than others. Some where the little pintle things in there aren't exactly right. You get some funky spray patterns. So anyway, the reason why I'm saying that Coyote stuff, you got to be careful with that, because higher compression, a little bit more sensitive to potential boost issues. You just want to play it safe. Now, not that all of them don't need this, but again, with the 5.0s, certainly something to think about. But the kit itself is good. Again, my first bit of advice would be make sure you get your injectors flow checked. I'll put it like this: it's money very well spent, and it will ensure that you have even power and even fuel distribution on each cylinder, which is something you're definitely going to want when you start throwing that kind of power and that kind of boost at that car. Doc Diff is asking Tyler, what about third? Doc Diff is asking actually how much for that kitty bell, which I figured you would be first on that one, brother. Cody's saying, since a supercharger requires horsepower to gain horsepower, would having a lighter or smaller pulley sort of reduce the amount of horsepower robbed? Actually, no. Smaller pulleys are just going to speed up the blower if you're talking about diameter. If you're talking about width-wise, not really, because the inertial load isn't that big of an issue. You really want more grip around that pulley. Lighter pulleys, yes, but to a very limited extent. You might see some gain with the idler pulleys themselves. And really achieving belt wrap is more important at that point, and they're an idler, so there's really no power loss involved with that, because there's nothing that it's actually turning, and there's no real inertial load that you're going to be looking at. One of the bigger issues that you run into with superchargers that folks forget about is that the supercharger itself takes power to turn, in that it is a compressor, but the other issue that you run into is the actual inertial load of turning something and accelerating something that weighs something. So let me give you a bit of a homework assignment. Let's say this old buffing pad is a 5-pound weight, and for me to spin it on my finger doesn't take much. But if this thing were spinning, if you can imagine it spinning 14,000 RPM, it would take a lot more power to accelerate it to, say, 15,000 RPM. Or if this was, in this case, a pulley, like an idler pulley, you're already spinning that thing pretty hard, but you will still need to generate some power to make that pulley spin faster. So really, you're not only overcoming an inertial load of the pulleys themselves, but the bigger inertial load is going to come from, in a positive displacement, turning these big heavy rotors any faster requires even more power. And then of course, when you're dealing with a centrifugal style supercharger, it's overcoming the gear reduction ratio. That's really the bigger kicker than anything else there. So good question, and fun thing to contemplate. Yes, you always want the lightest pulleys that you can without sacrificing durability. That's another one. So don't throw like super light aluminum pulleys on the thing that are going to be under load. That works for idler pulleys, but anything that's going to be under load and carrying that parasitic loss, that power that encompasses the parasitic loss, that needs to be pretty robust. Doc Div saying, weird chat tonight, huh, B? No, I'm having fun with this one. I like it. I like the interactive stuff for sure. Sam saying, coming from somebody that's blown a number of trannies, and trains won't always throw a check engine light. That is true, but that's a manual transmission, so the only check engine light that would come on in that would have to be blinking off the driver's forehead. Ashley saying, Dr. Diff, we'll talk about it next time you come to the shop. I like it. Stephen Price saying, I love the super stock, and he wants one. Oh, CFL James is in, got the arm flex. I like it. Super stock, yeah, super stock's all right. Nice evolution of the platform, of the breed, if you will. Sam saying, in my case, it did not have drive till I got in the throttle. Tyler saying, I can't thank you enough. Best advice I had from anyone. Hopefully we helped you, brother. That's what we're all here for, man. Oh, wait a minute. Time out. CFL James, what's up? Thank you very much, man. I appreciate the contribution. He's saying, are you running Nitto 305 45 17s on that Hellcat? No, I'm running the Mickey Thompson ET Street R's is my drag setup. I see that they make them now. The sidewall isn't beautiful, but I'll take that over the fillings coming out of my head from the MTRs. So here's the thing. Haven't looked into that part of it. I like my 305 45 17s from Mickey Thompson, the ET Street R's. Love that tire on that car at that power level. With the track prep that I have, they typically do really well. Where I've got a problem with the Nittos on this car is just in the fact that, yeah, from an aesthetic, they're not that good looking. It's like a kind of a billboard stamped into the side of the thing. They're a little too wide, and I don't like I like it when the tire and the width of the tire is consistent with the width of the wheel. That way, I've got a direct line of sight from the bead of the rim to the tire to the ground. It's basically parallel. The problem is when you start getting that bulge, your contact patch gets a little bit compromised, and I don't want to get into the whole contact patch argument. I've just gone out and pattern tested these things, and I noticed that they are a little bit off compared to the Tri-5, and it shows a little bit in the drive. But I will say this, they're a good tire. In terms of just being a good tire, they handle fine. They handle wet weather great for what they are. I don't know. I'm going to circle back around on my opinion of these things as soon as they're worn out. I don't want to take them off the car just yet because, again, they work great as just a tire. But I think I'm going to be getting a different set of wheels for the car anyway, and I think that once I do that, I may start liking those tires a little bit more. So a little bit of update on that. The slingshots on the Challenger got to go. So I'm probably going to be going with a set of replica Demons, mainly because I like the way that they look, and I really like the fact that they're super easy to clean. See? So your contribution dollars at work, but that's kind of where I'm going to be taking that car from an aesthetic. Let's see. Let's see. Oh, Ashley's checking in with Dr. Div saying $5 grand for the whole kit, including booster pump and injectors and fuel rails. No throttle body. Nice. It's a good deal, actually. Cunningham Scat saying, I had the same problem with my car. I had to go with BMR solid motor mounts. See, that might be the way that it's going. Might be that motor mount rattling around in there, pissing off those knock sensors. Dr. Diff hanging out with Ashley. Oh man, okay, so here's the deal. So Dr. Diff says, cool, I know who you are now. I got to get my heads back from them. The storm's got them down, so I'll be there next week. This is the one Pops is already planning to buy. Let me tell you something. Pops' car going to be a monster with that supercharger. So, well, with the cam that's in it, it is going to absolutely love that Kenny Bell. Sunfire guy saying, thanks for the advice. You got it. NG42 saying, I can't wait to smoke some stick shift Mustangs with this 01 Town and Country 3.3 liter. It's gold. Oh, damn. I've never lost a race. Even if I lose my minivan, it's going to pull up. I like it. Sam saying the P1222 code. Not familiar with that off the top of my head. Oh, Ashley and Dr. Diff had just made a transaction, it looks like. Taking my finder's fee, Ashley. Thank you very much. No, that'll be an awesome setup, man. Good job. Smoking at 5 saying, how big can you punch and stroke the Eagle 5.7 Hemi reasonably? Take it to 392 or bigger? There's some that have taken it to 392. Others that have gone even bigger than that. Not really my cup of tea going much bigger than that because you start running into some potential windage issues, but it all depends on what you're going to be doing with that thing. I know some guys have gone 417, maybe even larger, but I I don't know. We didn't do a whole lot. We did a lot of 392 strokers. Nothing too much bigger than that. So, MG42 saying 426 out of a 5.7, no problem. That is true. Again, it's kind of a windage issue, potential windage issue at that point, but man, I mean, they all work well. The thing with the 5.7 is it's such a, you can have a lot of fun with the 5.7. I mean, that to me, the 5.7 in a lot of ways is the kind of the, it's kind of the unsung hero of the whole of the platform setup in a lot of ways. Tyler's talking to Doc Div saying with his shifting issue, saying third has a similar issue but not as bad as second. Never a problem in first. Most of the time the car throws you back in the seat. Stop at a light, shift it from first to second. No punch at all. Weird. Actually saying, no problem. Jeffrey's saying, what up, B? Long time since I got on a late nighter, finally coming into some good DA. Can't wait for Friday night. I like it. Let us know how she does, brother. Doc Div saying, Tyler, take it to a professional that specializes in Dodge, not the dealer. Might be the best option there. Because they're going to be used to seeing some funky stuff. The dealerships, man, look, a lot of times, to be honest, if it doesn't come up, it's kind of like going to an auto part store and giving them a part number and they still ask you what year is this going in. That's kind of where the dealership kind of falls in line. They get real set in a very robotic way of doing things. Yeah, find yourself a shop that does speak fluent Mopar. Let them know what's going on. They may be able to find something going nutty in there. In fact, they'll probably hook it up to HP tuners, run it on a data log, and look at short-term knock retard and throttle source. They'll be the two things that they look at first. Mopar Fan 300 saying, what's happening? What's happening, Mopar Fam? I like it. Tyler's checking in again, saying, thank y'all so much. Frustrated, bought the car new, only has 16,000 kilometers on it. Would take it to a professional, or 16,000 miles on it. We'll take it to a professional. I like it. Hey, Maha's checking in, saying, greetings, B. Good to finally catch you live. I like it. HU37 saying, yeah, the P1222 Dodge. Possible causes: reprogram engine control module, faulty fuel injector, harnesses open or shorted fuel injector. Good God, man. Come up with that fault code, man. You got some problems, bro. I'm going to check some grounds if you got that one. All right, so getting back to it, though. So kind of fun. And this is one of those cool things where, with Revlon, based on data logs, I know I can get away with a little bit more, but I've always wanted to cover a number with a tune that I knew would be a good all-weather tune, and that's basically where that car is right now. So that's kind of why I'm excited about boost weather this year, because the car is running better. I've thrown a little bit more fuel at it. Every time I throw fuel at it, not even messing with timing, every time I've thrown a little bit more fuel at it, the car just responds to it a little bit better. But here's the funny thing. So I tried throwing more timing at it. Car didn't like it. I mean, dude, it didn't like it at all. So, I don't know. I've just got one that doesn't like timing. You know, what's funny is that when I worked at the shop, we would get some every once in a while that were strong but just did not play the timing game, and mine happens to be one of them. You get some that you can throw timing at it, it's like, I don't really care, whatever. But mine, I mean, the knock sensors get all pissy about the timing and everything else. So anyway, it's always funny though whenever I start getting that itch, like I want to start throwing timing at her, and I'll be like, oh yeah, let's take a look at maybe a couple of things I can do a little bit differently with it. Every time I do, it doesn't go well for me. It's funny. I've tried it on several occasions, and the car, like I've done it at the drag strip, and I did it with race gas, it was a race gas mix. And the car did okay. I mean, it didn't really pick up a lot, but I didn't really throw a lot at it because I didn't have a lot of race gas in the car. So I tried that same tune, but just with 93, the car went slower. Not good. And that's one of the funnier things about playing with these cars is that the Mopars especially, is that they are a little bit inconsistent, which means that every single one of them will, you can't just take a tune for the most part. You can't just take a tune and plug it into one of the Mopars and go, okay, that's going to work great. It just doesn't work like that. It doesn't really work like that with any cars, but there are some baselines that you can start off with that are pretty well known. And I don't know, I just know that when I would come in and, do a final dyno pull, or, try to make a couple of adjustments on the dyno just to see what they would act like, and, it would either not really change, or it would just, nope, and it would just start hemorrhaging power. Antoine, man, thank you very much, man. I appreciate that very much for the contribution, saying, thanks for the background entertainment. I'm currently under my Ram installing forged pistons and rods, and it's keeping me sane. Thanks, man. I appreciate that. Hopefully we're here entertaining you and not boring you to tears, end up waking up in the morning underneath your truck. By the way, listen, if you've never fallen asleep working on a car, you really haven't done it right. So this car is a perfect example of this. It's funny, I just kind of brought up an old memory. So this was, God, this is basically it's a million years ago. We were getting this car. This is when this car had the Supercharger, the 302, but it did have the F-cam, and it had this intake on it, as a matter of fact. Anyway, we had to do a transmission swap, and among other things, I was doing a transmission swap, a clutch. What else was I doing in this thing? Anyway, we're getting it ready for Bradenton, and the trip to Bradenton is basically from Houston is about a 24-hour drive, because you've got to go around Georgia and then all the way down the state of Florida to get to Bradenton. So it was me and a buddy of mine, and I was underneath the car, got everything unbuttoned, got everything pulled out, had put everything back together, and it was like an all-night thrash. We'd taken the car out a little bit earlier, running into issues. We had an extra T5 available for us. Basically, it was a brand new one. We kind of procured it. It had recently been rebuilt. We liberated it temporarily. Let's put it that way. So get the trans in the car, and I remember it was one of those days where I'd been at work. I think I got in there at like 5 o'clock in the morning. I was doing loadout with all of the labor. Did not only loadout, but I was going through payroll. Had a million things going on. Basically, by the time I got off, I had put in about 12 or 13 hours, got home, knocked everything out, and I remember laying my head back thinking, damn, I got to wake up early as shit in the morning. And then I remember opening up my eyes, and I had literally fallen asleep under the car for about 45 minutes. So, yeah, I know what it's like, especially when you're thrashing on something, and you totally lose track of time. And that's the other spooky thing, is that, when you start thrashing on one of these things and you're working on it, hours just evaporate into the ether, right? So, but that's kind of one of the things that happened. It didn't take long to get to the point that we got to, and then we got it done. And the car was done, and the front of the car was sitting on ramps. The back of the car was also sitting on ramps that were turned backwards. So it wasn't on a lift or anything, but I just put my head back, thinking, God, I got a long drive, and you got to load the car up, and it's going to be this pain in the ass, and I'm going to be working on about 3 hours of sleep and a lot of Folgers crystals. And by the way, if you've never cannonballed a road trip, the trick, and I don't recommend doing this, but anyway, you get the small thing of instant coffee and bottles of Ozarka water, whatever bottled water, and basically it's just chilled coffee. Shaking that thing up in the Ozarka and just chug. Anyway, not one of the healthiest choices, but hey, I mean, you do what you got to do, and you're trying to, and it never fails. No matter what, event was on the way. It's funny how you completely lose your ability to tell time in this, but we would have races coming up. It could be Fun Ford, it would have been NMRA events, it could be anything. You know, streetcar type stuff, a lot of the True Street stuff, and we'd be getting this car ready or a buddy of mine's car ready or whatever. And you know that this event is coming 6 months in advance. And so you've got other things that are going on, and you got work, and you got family, and you got all this other stuff. Next thing you know, you're down to like that 2-week mode. And it's funny because it sinks in. Like you'll be in the middle of doing something else completely, right? I mean, you can be in the middle of work stuff, or you're just kind of sitting there. You might be, I don't know, contemplating your navel, whatever it is. Next thing you know, it's, oh shit, and I got to order everything, right? And of course, nobody's got anything in stock. Or there's like some weird, like holiday or something like that pops up, or you know, a storm somewhere if it's a summer race, and whatever it is, it's got everything all screwed up with shipping, and everything takes an extra week. And so anyway, yeah, you're falling asleep under the car with parts that you had to wait an extra week for. You're literally loaded. The ice chest was already in the back. I had an Expedition. The ice chest was already in the back of the truck. Everything was ready to go. Anyway, I feel your pain. Anyway, sorry, I kind of lost track of my brain there for a minute. Smoking 05's got a good question asking, would Revlon gain anything from a full 3-inch exhaust versus a stock system? Not a lot. So the stock system is a 2 3/4 inch, which is kind of an oddball size. But would it gain much? Yeah, maybe, but I would need to run 2-inch long tube headers. Cooks makes a set of 2-inch long tube headers, and it would take that with the 3-inch, an H pipe, not an X, but I would probably go H with that setup, with a set of MagnaFlow straight through exhaust, straight through mufflers. That would be the only area where it would gain, and it really wouldn't gain a lot, I don't think. It might gain 3 or 5 numbers, but that would be about the most I could think of. But anyway, man, thank you again. I do appreciate it, my friend. Thank you very much. Let's see. Make sure I didn't. Oh, nope, we're good. Okay. Whoa, hey. All right. Sorry, guys. Getting back to it. Tyler's saying, great advice. We'll check out your suggestions right away. Car is driving me crazy. Thanks again. Happy to help you, brother. Dan saying, I recently went from an 09 Challenger SRT8. I had it for 10 years. Cool car, by the way. To a 50th anniversary wide body, both 6-speed manuals. I never had a catch can on the 09. Put one on the 392. Yeah, question mark. Here's the thing with the catch can on those cars. Yeah, they help a little bit, but even cars with catch cans, if you remove the intake manifold, it's still got oil in it. If you look at the intake valves, it'll still pool a little smiley face of oil there. Catch cans work by mitigating the amount of oil going into that intake manifold, but you have to remember that you may get a, let's say, I'll give you an idea. This would be a lot to collect, but let's say you get, you know, familiar with the Gatorade bottle, about the size of your head, that one, the Gatorade bottle cap, if you were to fill that up completely, that would be about the amount of oil that 392 catch can is going to capture in, say, I don't know, let's say 500 miles worth of driving. But the way that the catch can works is that oil is basically, it's atomized, and it is in suspension, and when you draw that through the catch can, what you've got is you have steel wool in there that's acting as a nucleation site. In other words, you have a suspended atomized liquid that is hitting something and coming out of suspension and dropping down into the can. But that doesn't capture all of it. In fact, I don't know the actual number that it catches, but I would venture a guess, this is just me spitballing, and say it catches 30%. Because you got to figure, if it was sucking in a whole lot of oil, you would know it, right? I mean, you'd be losing oil. You would look at the dipstick and you would see the amount of oil dropping. And you don't really ever see that. It's just this very small amount, but when it's aeromized, in other words, when it turns into an aerosol, basically, it seems like it's a lot more than it really is. So let me just reverse that. I am not running one on Revlon. I don't know that I would go out of my way to put one on that car, but I'm just simply not running one on that car now. Does it help? Yeah, it helps, but it's debatable as to how much. Let's see. Oh, also, and to that point, think of that in another way. How much gasoline are you burning? And if you were to dump this much, enough oil to fill this up to the very even tippy top, which may not even get that much in that many miles, but out of 18 gallons of gasoline or 20 gallons of gasoline, how much of that gasoline would that amount of oil contaminate realistically? I mean, would you even ever know it? Would the car ever know it? Probably not. Let's see. Oh, Dr. Div's saying, Antoine, MMX drop-ins boost for high nitrous. Oh, he's asking what he's putting in his truck. Nice. Antoine's saying the MMX drop-ins, and yes, for the E-Force. That'll be a lot of fun. That's gonna be so much freaking fun. Y'all know how I like the E-Forces. Dr. Div, Queasy's laughing. Dr. Div saying, yep, slept under my truck when doing the front axles one night in the garage. Didn't wait until 4 a.m. with a horrible backache. Best sleep of my life. Yep. Jeffrey's checking in saying, I'm ready. I was ready to take the next step. I'm thinking I'm ready to have somebody make me a 100 octane tune for my Scat. Any recommendations? What kind of power are we talking? Well, not a ton, man, especially on the NA stuff. You're just not going to see a lot. The thing is that those cars don't really respond well to timing. You can throw a couple of degrees at it, but you're just not going to look at a huge increase in power with that, unfortunately. You know, Dr. Diff can put a tune together, Pikes can put a tune together, but I just don't know that it would help you a ton with the amount of power that you're looking to make. I'll put it to you like this. NA, even a switch to E85 doesn't gain any power up top. In fact, because of the added fuel mass with E85, you can end up losing power just, or at least maintaining the same power up top, which you might look at, well, it didn't gain anything. Well, yeah, because at that power level, the amount of fuel that you have to inject is displacing oxygen. So anyway, it's going to fall in line with some of that. You'll pick up a little bit of torque, maybe a little bit of power, but don't look to pick up more than about 10 points, 10 numbers, 10 horsepower, 10 foot-pounds of torque at the most with that. It might not be worth the time, brother. Smoke 5 saying if you run a 10.0, then get that 3-inch exhaust system for a 995. It might not even do that much. Doc Div saying there's your answer to the high nines, long tubes and 3-inch no cat. Bet it's worth a tenth or two. I mean, it's not like you can't tune it. That's true. But no, man, we got to do it in as close to factory as we can. You got to remember that the whole mission statement with Revlon kind of goes like this. Odd that somebody had mentioned the super stock earlier. Revlon is kind of that super stock Dodge. It's got factory parts with a little bit of a tune-up, but we're running a Scat Pack rear diff, the 309, running the factory rear seat delete, running the very generously donated by multiple Mopars. By the way, check out his channel. Red Eye drive shaft. God, what else? In terms of parts, that's it. It's got the stock Hellcat air filter in it. And that's it. Basically just a bunch of stock parts. Or, you know, factory parts. and trying to get the most out of the car that you can with that. And really, I like the idea that she's still lean and green. You know, it's factory catalytic converters, doesn't seem to be hurting it. So again, this is one of those situations where if it ain't broke, don't fix it. And I think we're going to leave her where she's at. Let's see. Oh, Dan Busey's saying, great explanation. Thank you. Yeah, happy to have you, man. Thank you. So far, a guy saying, buddy has sold me his JLT catch can. I empty it every 2 weeks, and it's usually will fill that Gatorade cap. 5.0s eat oil, I hear. Yeah, the 5.0s do have a little bit of a, well, it's just a lot of blow by, and also to that point, the LSs do the same thing. Queasy's asking, do y'all like the S197s or S550 Mustangs more? S550 is a better platform, but there's nothing wrong with an S197. They're fun. It depends on what you're going to do with it. If you're looking for something that's just, you know, going to be something to hoon around with and goof off with, S197 will get that done for you all day, every day, twice on Sunday. Anthony G's checking in saying, I'm running a catch can on my kitty cat. Catches some. I check it constantly. It doesn't catch that much. I have JLT. Yep. And Anthony G's saying, after 500 miles, it might fill that Gatorade cap. And that's what I was saying. It's like just it's a small amount. It's not a lot. So for our guys saying, I prefer the S550. IRS is a huge upgrade, and my interior is way better. The ergonomics of the S550 are nice, but you know, again, it depends on what you're up to with the car. Dan saying, I guess it's safe to say that the 392 is pretty much optimized out the door, and unless you force feed it, you're wasting your time and money. I'll say this, you know, the 392 is very well optimized from the factory, and there are some things you can do to really wake those things up. But again, that Mopar tax is going to get you. So you got to look at it from that point of view too. Is whatever you're going to do to that car worth the amount of money you're going to throw at it? And look, man, the 392 is a lot of fun. And by the way, I mean, you guys know I've got a lot of experience with 392s. And one of the more fun experiences I've had lately with the 392 was, you know, Ray had gotten the new 1320. Beautiful car in Frostbite Blue, which if you haven't seen Frostbite Blue in person, the pictures do it no justice whatsoever. It's just like Redline Red. Redline Red looks good in pictures, but until you see it in person, it doesn't, you just don't know. Anyway, we had a blast with that car. We were making test hits with that thing for about 2 hours the other night, last Friday night. Awesome car. And I missed, here's the thing, in a way, I had kind of forgotten just how fun the 392 cars are on the street. You can just get away with stuff in a 392 powered car. God dang it, flew up my nose. I must have a nose hair that's going rogue. Anyway, you can do some stuff in a 392 car with a drag radial, which those cars come factory with those Nexans. You can do some stuff with those cars you just can't do with the higher horsepower cars. They're just a lot of fun to play with. So, Doctor is saying, so true, maybe throw a little 100 shot on him, saying as green as it gets, clean, mean machine, Revlon, bet on the 100, you'd make low 9+. I would probably on a 100 shot would cover about a 960, 970 for sure, but maybe 960s with it. Doctor is like, I'm going to push you. No. CFL saying, I haven't filled that cap in 5,000 miles. Very little. Yep. Dr. Div saying the devil in your ear. Talking about the catch can. And Queasy saying, yeah, the interior of the S550 is very nice for sure. So, you know, I like, when it comes to the Mustang stuff, you know, the S197s are nice. They're kind of like the 08 through 13 Challengers. They're very utilitarian in their look and in their focus. And I gotta tell you, that look and that feel does have its place. I mean, that's what I grew to love with the GT500s. And when the redesign came out, the ergonomics game just went on to the next generation, literally to the next level. But in this case, it's just a new generation. And man, I got to tell you something. The S550, to me, it's like it's tailor-made for my body type or whatever. I've never, well, at least with the GT350, but with the Recaros, that thing is just, I love the interiors. Very efficient use of space, very clean, super, much higher quality than the S197. But again, I mean, it's just the next generation of the car. And there's something about, I don't know, the utilitarian nature of the S197, though, that gives it its own kind of personality, not to mention that solid rear axle makes life pretty nice. So, you know, if you're doing a lot of drag racing. But, I mean, then you get into the later cars and, you know, 18 and up, 19 and up, you know, 10-speed automatics now. I mean, that's just, the stuff is getting, here's the weird thing. These cars nowadays, the Mustang, the Scat Packs, even the Camaros, don't forget about the Camaros, they're still out there. These cars are so fast from the factory, and you almost forget that the NA cars of today are significantly faster than anything from history, from a mass production point of view. Take the Hellcats, ZL1s, GT500s out of the equation if you can. The new stuff is just unbelievably fast already as it sits. Even myself included can get a little bit jaded with that. We're just saying, yeah, the 15 to 17 didn't grab me, but I started to like the 18 to 20, but I love the 11 to 12, look more muscular. They are a little bit blockier, have that little bit more of a blocky look to them. Let's see. Smoke05 is asking, when you're at the racetrack, do you turn the stability all the way off or just turn off traction control like sport mode? So both, actually. Typically what I'll do is my final settings will have the traction control completely off. That's kind of a throwback to just what I used to do with the 392 cars. But if you leave the car in sport mode, it's kind of the same thing. It'll allow a significant amount of wheel spin. In fact, you can do your burnout in sport mode if you want to. So typically, you know, as I'm pulling into the water box, I will, as I'm rolling, after I go to my saved setting, I will hit that traction control button to hold on to it, and it'll ding, and that's when you know, all right, it's go time at that point. So that's the last noise that I'll hear from an interior button before I start doing that burnout. What's funny too, so track mode for those cars is a little bit different than you might think. It's not drag strip. It's actually a mode that's really better suited for like a closed circuit, like road racing type stuff. And the interesting thing about it is that it sometimes will not even allow for a full burnout. My slowest times always come in track mode of all the modes. I think even street was quicker than track mode at the drag strip. Dan's checking in saying, I really love my 09 SRT8. The only reason I parted with it was to get a 50th wide body. I was very surprised how much nicer the new car is. I did not expect it to be that much better. He's saying in the wide body, Anthony G saying the wide body, where it's at. Good choice. They're really pretty with the 50th anniversary. So that was one of the things that I noticed straight away with the 15 remodel was just how much work they put into everything being more upscale, much, much nicer, more ergonomically correct. I mean, the car is just nicer, but one of the things that I kind of missed about the 08 through 13 cars, and I kind of like this, and it's a bit nostalgic whenever I get in them, but it's just this monolith of black that is in front of you and off to the side. There's nothing nothing to catch your eye. It's just dash, right? And anyway, that's one of the things that that endeared me so much. And you guys will always hear me talk about the cars that I never wanted to see leave the shop, right? There was a handful of cars that I absolutely loved and just was bummed out that left the shop. And then there was some that I couldn't wait to see leave, and was happy when they were gone. But anyway, one of the cars that I loved was this, and it was you wouldn't expect this, but it was a 2013, was it a Ford? No, it was a 2013 SRT8 6-speed car. It's white with red stripes. I don't know what it was. A real clean car. We put a Supercharger on it, put a D1 on it. But I don't know what the deal was with that car, but I loved driving it. There was just something so overwhelmingly endearing about that car. And what's funny is that I think I know why now. Because after I've been spending all this time with Foxy, I've kind of figured out that Foxy runs about like a 6-speed Scat Pack. And it just felt like a big version of a Fox body Mustang, I guess, to me, somehow, subconsciously. But anyway, I loved that car and I didn't want to see it go. And, you know, when the blower went on it, it did great. It went from, I think, put down like 385 or something like that to the rear wheels. With the Supercharger, it put down 535. So nice little gain there. The car did really well, felt good, made good power up top, whatever. But it was just one of those cars where it always felt happy. And it was just I don't know, it just put a dumb grin on my face to drive it. And typically, guys, you got to remember, when I'm driving these cars at the shop, a couple of things to remember. Number one, it's somebody's baby that I'm data logging. I may as well be wearing did I get that motherfucker? Sorry. Anyway, skeeters. But typically, it's somebody else's car and it's their baby, and I may as well be wearing a lab coat. You know, I'm there to just data log the thing. I'm doing high load testing. I'm doing low load testing. I'm looking at all kinds of different parameters, and all I'm doing is making sure that it is fit for all uses. You know, use, misuse, abuse, no issues with weird knock sensor stuff going on, injector duty cycles within parameters. Just basically giving it a good solid once over under varying load conditions and under, you know, wide RPM ranges. But there's only a few cars where I knew that the data was good, and it was just so neat to drive some of those cars. But that was one of them. For anyway, kind of going off on this here. Ashley's saying that, oh, her car's an 09 SRT8 and I've been wrecking shop in it and love it. Hell yeah, I love that. Dr. Dude's saying, not 960 or 970 on a Hundo. I bet it's a 9495. I mean, this is Revlon we are talking about, not just some Hellcat Gawit. Factory timing. Yeah. I don't know. I'm trying to, undersell that. And she's saying, you and the bugs. Dude, so here's the thing. So yeah, it's coming into boost weather. Now I'm thinking about it, probably have one bite me on top of my bald head. So we're coming into boost weather, which is great, but that also means that these damn skeeters start to die off. We've had some of these live shows where, I'm taking these things out left and right. I can't remember what our highest body count was. I think it was like 5 or 7. Anyway, and I wasn't missing a shot either. I was just collecting these things like rent. So, yeah, every single one of those damn skeeters were catching these hands. So, yeah, for sure, getting outside of skeeter weather. And so here's the other thing. Revlon's going to have her first full-on, spa day here pretty soon. In fact, all my kit is over there. Like you can see it underneath that blue towel. So yeah, I'm gonna start pulling the black plastic out of the hood, you know, the vents and all that. Give it a good washing, good clay bar, and then, you know, start spreading some shiny on that thing. Do a couple of you know, rock chip fixes and stuff like that. Get to bust out the sandpaper for that, so that'll be fun. So that'll be the next thing that I do to that old girl. Aside from putting tires on her, she definitely needs a little bit of that machine operated polishing. And you know, I don't know if you can see, it's seeing some pretty decent you know, decent shiny over here. Black car is going to get, unfortunately the paint is just shot on that hood. Even after a couple of rounds of wet sanding, where I made a complete mess of my life. If you've never wet sanded a car, it's one of the weirder things that you'll ever do, by the way. But going after a car with sandpaper, going after your paint with sandpaper, and you see it when it's done, and it's just this is a black car, so you hit it with sandpaper, and it's this primer gray, basically, when you're done with it. And then comes the polishing and all that step to it. Anyway, I was able to knock out a lot of really jacked up things about the paint, but again, the paint was kind of jacked to begin with, so there's still some areas where I've got some clear coat lift and, you know, some splotching and stuff like that that's just never going to come out because it just needs a paint job. But I don't know, man, it's a 30-year-old car, and it kind of gives it a little bit of a, you know, life's no fun without scars, man. So anyway, she's going to stay the way that she is. By the way, she looks flawless at night, so that's all that matters, I guess. I was saying, oh wait, it is. Smoke 5 saying, what is Foxy going to run in the good fall weather? You know, that's a good question, because there's a couple of things that I would need to do to the car before I took it to a drag strip. Namely, needs a transmission rebuild, because this son of a bitch. What is this thing? Freaking Keanu Reeves, man? That thing went through my fingers twice. How do you do that? Man, I'm losing my touch. Like I said, this morning's routine did not go as planned. So this morning's routine was so embarrassingly bad that I didn't really cut it short, but I kind of cut it short. Yeah, you got good days and bad days. Man, I was so out of, it was weird. It was like I was out of step. I was about a quarter of a step off. Ranging wasn't all that great, but anyway, I guess I need to brush up on those skills so I can keep smoking these skeeters. Anyway, sorry, squirrel. What's it gonna run? I don't know. The trans has got to be rebuilt. Synchros are kind of, but you got to remember that it's got a world-class T5 in it, which doesn't really mean much, aside from the fact that it's, you know, it's been rebuilt once. This transmission has got, I don't even know how many passes at the drag strip. I would say in its current form, somewhere close to 1,500. Just from all the years ago that I used to run this car. Anyway, so it certainly needs synchronizers, and so it would need that, and it would need a tire. But with that being done to it, I would say that it would realistically be like a 1220 car at probably 110 miles an hour, somewhere in that range. The car, when it was supercharged, was an 1150 car, but that doesn't really matter because it's not supercharged anymore. With the 351 and the cam that's in it, the intake, which doesn't really favor high RPM at all, it's just a really fun street car, and it's a lot of fun on the street. So to take it down the track and it runs at 1220 or a 1230 at, you know, in really good air, really good conditions, I would say it would probably be in that range. I say that fully aware that the car's got an 11 in it, but I would have to wail on it a little bit harder than I'm willing to beat on it, mainly because I've done that already. This is the car that I learned how to do everything that I know how to do on a car. I did it on this one first, so that's kind of cool. It's I've been in and around this thing for 20 years. Dan's asking, with the new lock PCMs, is there any way to gain performance short of unlocking the PCM and voiding warranty coverage? Yeah, there is. You guys know that I'm a big fan of pedal commanders. I've installed them on my E63. I've installed them on a buddy of mine's BMWs and other cars. I know that Sean E had one on his Scat Pack that was a 6-speed car. The cool thing about a pedal commander, you son of a bitch. Yep, got that one. The cool thing about a pedal commander is that it's not going to affect the warranty. It's just a plug-in intercept for the pedal sending unit, basically. Long story short, you can dial in the aggressiveness of how the car performs underfoot, which to most people, believe it or not, that's really all they're looking for, is just that feeling of performance, that snappier throttle response. That's all that it is. Now, yeah, granted, the car doesn't make any more power, but that doesn't matter if you're making the car feel more responsive. And I'll take that a step further. What you have to remember about an electronic throttle is, okay, I'm going to use this as a prop here. So let's talk about a mechanical throttle firstly. So mechanical throttles are typically pretty linear in that if you push the pedal halfway to the floor, you get a throttle blade that will open halfway. If you open it, all the way to the floor, it goes wide open, and then you shut it and it's all the way shut. Here's the thing with an electronic throttle: when you go to half throttle, you may only get a quarter of the throttle blade opening. And then as you progressively put more throttle input, it'll ramp that throttle blade open a little bit more. There's a reason for that. The reason is at a quarter throttle or at half throttle, the amount that the throttle blade is open is proportionate to it being closed at that point. So the airflow is very low when you give it what your foot may perceive as half throttle, and the electronic throttle only gives it a quarter throttle. It's actually making about half the torque that engine would typically make, especially at that airflow requirement, basically that RPM, and at that speed. So what ends up happening is that you get this very progressive power delivery, but more of a logarithmic pedal travel based on your foot. Whereas a direct link, like a cable, you give it half throttle, it kicks this thing half open. Well, the thing is that would be 100% of the torque in some cases that engine can make based on that airflow requirement, basically at that RPM. That's one of the reasons why if you drive like an old throttle body injected car, or you drive something like this that is a direct link, they always feel very torquey. And one of the biggest responses to folks that after they drive a car like that is like, man, the throttle response is great, or man, it's super torquey. Well, it's really not. It's just that you're getting 100% of the torque because that throttle blade opening that just halfway is supplying the engine with more than enough airflow to supply a manifold vacuum that is very close to ambient. I'm getting a little bit techie, and I know that, but I've got to do that so that you can kind of understand what I'm talking about. Now, if you keep that throttle at that position as the engine revs through its power band, you're going to get to a part where, yes, it's only flowing about half of the air, but down low, that's not the case, and that's where electronic throttle mapping comes into play. So with a pedal commander, this is a long way for me to make a point, which it's me, so go figure. With a pedal commander, what you can do is you can make the car feel like it has a direct link or like a cable operated throttle blade, so that it makes the car just real punchy and it makes it more fun to drive. A lot of guys will put a pedal commander in their car, and that's it. They leave it alone. Andy G saying it's a Ford. That bad paint is character. Yep, and considering it's about 30 years old, actually, it is 21 years old. 31 years old, rather. Alan is saying, what ambient temp would you say is ideal? I feel like my 6B392 gets heat soaked in the South Carolina summer, but hooks great when it's cold. It spins like crazy. This is on Pilot Super Sports. Yeah, you know, from what I've seen, and this is factoring in tire temperature and ambient temperature and everything else, I would say somewhere around 60 degrees, 65 degrees is pretty much ideal. But that's going to be 65 degrees at about 30% humidity, somewhere around in that area. Nick's checking in saying, hey, my boy, what's up, El? Dr. Div is saying, got to be up in the morning, so time for bed, man. We will catch you later, brother. Keep me posted on the stuff we're chatting about. I was asking, what do you think about BMW M3 E30? Anything M3 from BMW, I'm a big fan of, so I like it. Not familiar with all of them, but I don't know, man. I've always liked M3s, regardless of what was powering them, mainly because the chassis is so good, man. The turn-in on any of the M cars that I've ever driven, and even like the 550, at least when I drove was a 550, the 330 is the same way. They're just really good, man. I mean, they've got road feel down like you wouldn't believe. So to say that it is a good driver's car is an understatement. Let's see. Nick's asking, what's up, man? I'll be at Mopar's at the beach in November. It will be fun. Dyno Day, track day, cruise-ins, and car shows. Very nice. Those are always fun shows to go to. I like those. Dan's asking, the pedal commander works with the manual trans? Yep. Worked on, Sean E had one on his car. And he liked it. He raced it a lot. The car spent most of its life on a drag strip. Donald Powers saying, going through my 408 stroker for my first gen Dakota, fall time temps. I like that. That ought to be a lot of fun, man. God, it'd be so much fun to do a Dakota build too. So many projects that I would love to do, just no time. In fact, here's something else that was kind of funny. I was talking to somebody about this tonight. You know, it's a shame that we're getting to that point with some of these cars where it just wouldn't pay to try to work on them. And what I'm getting at is like some of the, you know, like the 50s cars, the 60s cars, we're getting into that era where it's, you know, appreciate them when you see them, because getting parts for them is getting much more difficult. The folks that have expertise with those cars, that grew up, that were working with those cars, you know, those folks are getting on in age, or they've moved on. Well, they're all getting on in age, but they may have moved on and really aren't messing with this stuff anymore. We're losing a lot of the expertise with those things, and it's a real bummer because, you know, the styling is timeless, really, but, you know, the stuff that they're made of isn't. And unfortunately, I've had to pass on projects that I would have loved to jump in like cannonball style into, but just the ability to get parts and, you know, the cost of everything just wouldn't allow for it. So I'm thinking specifically about a 57, 58 DeSoto that I would love to get my hands on. But yeah, for you guys that are going to the car shows, it's getting harder and harder to find clean examples of the old iron. Nick's asking, if I didn't have a Mopar, what platform would you have? Me, it would be an 07, 09 GT500 or a second gen CTSV. If I didn't have Mopar, it would be a C7 Z06. Would be my first, one of the first cars I would look at, because I love driving that. That car. I would be looking at S550 Mustang GT350. I would have a 430 or a 456 gear in that thing. and would go out and just piss off anybody and everybody that I could, or I would go 10R8, 10R90 with a Whipple setup or something along those lines, and just go run 9s and just forget about the world. You know, those are some fun cars, like right off the top of my head, that are more of the newer, some of the newer cars. But you know, if I was looking at maybe something older that wasn't Mopar, man, I don't know. That's kind of hard to say. You know, maybe something like a Studebaker Avanti, Avanti 2 would be pretty sick, pretty cool. You know, some of the older, quirkier, weirder cars I'm a big fan of. So, you know, an AMX would be another one that I would be interested in. Studebaker Challenger would be a neat one. You could get the Studebaker Challenger with the supercharged 289. That put a lot of old big block cars on trailers back in the day. So, yeah, it just depends on the era. I would also look at the Warlock, which was, well, it's still a Mopar, so I can't really go that route. Let's see. You know, just all kinds of stuff. And I've got some cool cars now. I mean, I've got Foxy, I've got Sierra, which is my 72 3/4 ton, which is going to be going to Dr. Diff here next probably month or so for the transmission. But just pretty much anything and everything. I mean, there's so many cool cars, you know. And the other side of it is, you know, I'm not immune to the import bug. So, you know, M3, M5 would be a lot of fun. The new Supra is another one that I really like. We've got the Z400 that's coming soon. So a lot of stuff on the horizon that I would be interested in. A lot of stuff that we already have that has proven itself to be reliable, fast, and fun. So, but any of the LS based stuff, I mean, that almost automatically has to go to the top of the list. I loved my C5 Z06. A little bit too much cam for the street, but ripped on the big end. But yeah, I mean, that's kind of where I would be. Smoking a 5. Have you driven a Ford GT? No, I have not. Neither the new one or the older one, unfortunately. F. Cho, hey, what's up, man? Saying, hey, B Mace, hope you're doing well. Hope you're doing well too, brother. Saying, any opinion on the Rip-A-Tuned Incognito damper sleeve? Yeah, I got a couple of ideas on that. Number one, it's a great option for you if you plan on tuning the car, which you should. Don't just put it on your car, even though they say you can do it without a tune. You can't. No such thing. But look, if you're planning on putting something together that, you know, you're going to tune the car anyway, it's an easier install. You're still going to have to key the crank, but you can put it back to stock fairly easily. And you can then turn around and sell your Rip-A-Tune pulley. That intrigues me. You're not going to pick up a ton of boost. It'll pick up, what, maybe 1.5 pounds, maybe 2 pounds. But the idea is, if you tune it with that pulley in mind, it's not bad. It's a nice option to go with, plus you keep your stock upper. But whatever you do, don't install it without a tune, because you start getting into, now we're coming into boost weather, low DAs, that's when you can start having problems with that car, because you're going to be running up against the limits of what some of the tables in your stock tune will be able to manage. And I know this because I've done it with my stock car on stock pulleys. So make sure you get a tune. The upside is that you can return it back to stock fairly easily. Really no downside to it. So I like it. Dan Busey saying, asking, do you have any experience with a Barton shifter? Yes, I used to sell Barton shifters at Pikes. Great shifter, and I know that Sean E. Swore by his Barton shifter in his Scat Pack. I like them; they're really good. Alan saying, if I ever bought an import, which I doubt I ever will, I'd probably get a Kia Stinger. A lot of folks are loving on that car right now, by the way. I was shocked how much I like driving it. I just can't get past the fact that it's a Kia. Yeah, and F-Show saying thanks. Thank you, brother. Listen, Kia makes a good car, man. Kia / Hyundai, the Genesis brand, look, they make some damn good cars. They're, I hate to say it, man, pretty damn reliable, and they handle fine. I mean, they handle street duty and just being fun cars exceedingly well. So, well enough to where there's some things that some folks could learn from, namely in durability. But yeah, there's a lot to be said for that car. And again, like I say, I had a 350Z when I lived in Northern California that I would tear up PCH with. It's Pacific Coast Highway. It's the highway that runs basically along the coast. I used to love that thing up there, and I mean, it was in its element. And it's an element where you don't need to have 400 or 500 horsepower. I mean, you can be wide open at 10/10 with that thing all the time, and it handled great. You know, through the corners, I mean, I would give vets fits. I mean, they just could never shake this little 350 that would be basically eating their lunch coming through some of the canyon roads. So, you know, that there's a lot more than just drag racing, and those types of cars can really turn you on to that kind of stuff. Well, guys, I got to get up super crazy early in the morning, so I'm going to check out, but I want to thank everybody who hung out with us tonight. Thank y'all very much for the contributions to the cause. We'll be putting that money to good use with a set of shoes for Little Miss Revlon here pretty soon. But again, thank y'all very much. Stay safe out there. Keep wearing your mask, if not for yourself, then do it for others. God bless, love all of y'all, and we will catch y'all on the next one. That is a wrap. Adios.